Welcome you to our first pitch battle of our Minds and Money May Roadshow. And without further ado, I'd like to hand you over to today's MC, who is Richard Morrow from the Melbourne Mining Club. A warm welcome to you, Rick.
Thanks, Andrew. And yes, good morning from Melbourne, Victoria, Australia. It's pitch battle time at Minds and Money. My name's Richard Morrow. Yes, I am chairman of the mighty Melbourne Mining Club. Quite a mouthful. And I'm your MC today. The rules of the game today are simple. We have three companies pitching their ideas today with an eye on the prize, a notional $1 million investment decided by our panel of judges, the pick of the crop from the mining investment world. Each of our companies will have 3 minutes to tell their story. I'll give a 1 minute left to go in the pitch. Then we go toe to toe with the panel. Each of our judges will have a question or two, maybe a few more. Around 8 minutes of this backwards and forwards and punching it out, just to get to the heart of the matter. And at the end of our three presentations, I'll ask each judge who got the chocolates and why. Okay, let's meet the international judging panel here. My first judge is Tim Markwell, manager of African funds with the Lion Selection Group, also in Melbourne. Next up is Larry Hill, portfolio analyst with the Phoenix Gold Fund. He's in Adelaide. Ruchir Desai is a fund manager with Asia Frontier Capital in Hong Kong. Thanks, Ruchir, for joining us. And next I have Kylie Prendergast, partner with Petram Capital, based in Brisbane. Rounding off the panel is the maestro of mining finance himself, Sean Russo, managing director and principal of Noah's Rule, and he's based in beautiful Sydney, Australia. There they are. They look a mean bunch, don't they? So let's throw them some live bait here. Our first presenter, please. He's an old mate, and sorry to do this to you, Andrew Buxton, put you in front of these animals. But Andy Buxton, of course, ASX listed, Alice Queen. Andy, your 3 minutes starts now.
Fantastic. Thanks, Richard. Just quick manners. Geoff and Zeff, best of luck. And to the judges, Tim, Larry, Ruchir, Kylie, and Sean, thank you so much for your time. It's really appreciated.
Stop sucking up to them. Get on with it. Come on.
Manners. Just to start, I think one thing that I just want to make sure that stands out between me and probably the other two competitors is I'm the founder of the company, Alice Queen, 10 years ago. I've got 10 years behind me on this project, so I know it inside out. I've also got $1 million of my own money in the company, so real skin in the game. Alice Queen, I think today in 3 minutes, I'm going to explain why it's a perfect blend of near-term production opportunities and also some really big blue sky with some elephant country in New South Wales. But starting with the flagship project, Horn Island, in simple terms, this thing was locked up under a restriction for 25 years. We lobbied the Queensland government to bring it out of that restriction, which shows our commitment to the cause. We've got a JORC resource of about half a million ounces, which we've drilled over the last sort of 4 or 5 years. And importantly for us, we've got a scoping study now underway, probably halfway through, the results of which will be out sometime sort of late July, early August. We'd expect that to underpin the valuation several times our current market cap. Next slide. Recently took on some projects or won some projects in Fiji. And look, for those of you who don't know, quickly rounding up the Fiji opportunity, it's a great gold address. The world famous Vatakula mine's been operating for 75 years. That's just up the road from our Nambila project. And then more recently, Lion One with their Tavatu project are in development as we speak. So Nambila, it's got basically a resource on it of 150,000 ounces that we were unable to announce because it's not JORC compliant. But our current team over there on the ground is reconstituting all of that data so that we can announce a maiden resource there probably in the next few months' time. So a very low cost way of introducing our Fiji operation. And once we get that resource up and running, it's very shallow, reasonably high grade dirt. So we'll have a number of options there, one of which is to toll treat it up at either Tavatu or Vatakula. So really exciting opportunity there. And finally, next slide. Look, this is elephant country. This is, one of the most exciting areas in Australia at the moment on the back of Alkane's recent discovery at Boda. We're being led in this area by my original.
1 minute.
Thank you. We're being led in this area by my original partner in Alice Queen all those years ago, 10 years ago, a guy called John Holliday. John's claim to fame is he discovered the world-class Cadia Ridgeway operation for Newcrest. So a good mate and a good partner to have. In simple terms here, we're trying to make a major discovery. That's our goal. feeling very optimistic. And what I always say to anyone who'll listen is, if you want to find the next Cadia, the best bloke to talk to is the bloke that discovered the first one. So Alice Queen, blue sky, New South Wales, and 2 near-term production opportunities. Best of both worlds.
Great 3 minutes there, Andy. That's fantastic and a good pitch. A bit heavy-handed on the, pumping up the judging panel there, but a bit of flattery goes a long way in this game, and there's $1 million up for grabs. That's great. So, who's got the first question? Let's go to Tim Markwell from Lion Selection Group.
Hey, thanks, Andrew. That was a great talk, and it's great to see you've got some very diverse projects. Just to start with Horn Island, is there much exploration upside? I can see you've got a nice starter resource there, but what's the exploration upside there like?
Yeah, good question, Tim. Yeah, there's huge exploration upside. The Horn Island itself, we've identified doing some metal zonation work. It's a 35 square kilometre mineral field. That's effectively bigger than some of the mines you'll know up there, Ravenswood, etc. It's an IRGS system, so it's very similar to the traditional North Queensland deposits. And our metal footprint is as big as any of theirs. So most of those mines up there, as you probably know, 7 to 15 million ounces over the course of their life, and we expect Horn Island will be very similar. Outside of Horn, we've got another 5 or so islands under separate permit called Kowalligal that we are at liberty to get going on at some point. But I think that the real focus is to pick the low-hanging fruit in and around the old mine. The best place to find gold is at a gold mine, and this used to operate in the 80s. So our focus is low-hanging fruit around the original mine.
Right, and just one more on Horn. The tailings, is it, given it's on an island, how much space do you have for things like the infrastructure and the tailings dam?
Well, good question. I should have mentioned it's operated previously in the 80s. So the process water dam and tailings area is still there. They've been subject to minor rehab by the Queensland government, but it's all still sitting there. And Horn Island, in case you don't know, is Australia's northernmost outpost. So it's heavily funded by government, and it's got enormous infrastructure advantages. One of the engineers during our scoping studies already put a number on it. It's 23 million worth of infrastructure that exists already. That's roads, airport that's there. Thursday Island's got a 30-bed hospital. The town of Waska's 700 people. So everything, a deep water port, it's all there, and it's all funded by either the Queensland government or the feds. So great infrastructure, big head start for us.
Thanks.
Harry Hill from the Phoenix Gold Fund. What's your burning question?
Thanks, Andy. Just maybe your other asset in Fiji, Nabila. What's left to get it JORC compliant? And I think you said it was around 150,000 ounces or so. So what sort of scale would you like to get that to maybe look at toll treating options or a standalone development?
I think tackling the first question first. It's the current reports. There are a number of them already out there, so I have no trouble in explaining this. With a couple of Google searches, you'll be able to find these things. The grade, in terms of the reports, varies between sort of 2 grams and 3.5 grams. In terms of toll treating, we don't see any reason why we need to expand upon that. I think what we're looking for here is really near-term easy money, well, not easy money, easy opportunity to get some easy cash flow. It's all very shallow. I think the resources starts at sort of circa 30 metres below surface. That's not to say we won't expand on it with some further drilling. I think what we're trying to say is, in this current gold climate, why wouldn't we get it into production quick, smart, in a low-cost way, either sending it up the road to Vatakula or to Tavatu at Lion 1. Does that answer your question? Sorry.
Yeah, and just very quickly, any sort of early stage work you've done, how suitable it is to treat recovery-wise?
Sorry, I missed your first question. What needs to be done? Sorry, the first part of the first question was simply around validation. I mean, it's all the assays previously were done by ALS, so it should be okay. We've just got to locate the drill collars, of which are, I think, 90 odd, verify the assays, which is currently being underway. I mean, they're all certified ALS assays, and then examine the drill core, which all still sits there in a shed at Nabila, which I've seen with my own eyes. So it's really just a matter of validating all the historic data to get it into a JORC compliant fashion. And we've got the best guys over here, Dale Sims, working on it with us. So it shouldn't be too far away. And sorry, the next question.
Just how suitable for toll treating any early stage met work on the ore?
Yeah, look, I think that the met's all looking very similar, and I won't say identical, but very similar to what we're hearing from Lion 1. So that's why I think our preference would be to do something with them. I've had a chat with them, very early days. We're not saying we've got any deals in place or anything like that, but look, they're Australian guys, now Australian listed, and they're willing to talk. So yeah, we don't see any problems. The mineralogy is very similar to what they've got. So yeah, don't expect too many problems.
Thanks. I'll pass it on.
Thanks. Great questions, Larry. Ruchir Desai from Asia Frontier Capital in Hong Kong. What's your burning question?
Great, thanks for the presentation. So you mentioned 3 projects, so quite very different, I guess, in 3 different geographies. So which one would you be most excited about, or which one do you think has the most potential from those 3 projects that you mentioned?
I think we've probably demonstrated, Ruchir, that the way that the order of those 3 slides came out is indicative of how we feel. Horn Island's certainly been our flagship and was our original asset, and accordingly, it's now the most advanced. So being halfway through a scoping study is pretty exciting. I mean, we've got already a couple of announcements that we made last week, which I think should send a signal to all investors that this has a very good chance of working very well. The infill drilling from our RC program late last year, I mean, those results were outstanding for us. They were better than we thought, which all feeds into the mineral resource estimate upgrade or update. And most importantly, Tomra ore sorting, it probably got missed a bit by the market. But Horn Island has a very unique situation that all the gold is contained in sulfide veins. There's 0 gold in the country rock, or the host rock. It's very amenable to this new technology of Tomra, which sorts waste from ore. Those results last Thursday, basically spelled a very clear situation that can get rid of, this system can get rid of 89% of your waste, which has the effect, obviously, of increasing the grade by 3 or 4 times that you feed into the mill. You're still going to have to mine it, but the mill feed is going to be a much higher grade than what would be, what would seem the case up here, thanks to that Tomra information. Now, Richard, just while I've got you there, Richard's, I think, just recently joined the board or has an association with EQ Resources in Queensland. I've just got off the phone yesterday with the CEO there, Kevin McNeil. He's been working with Tomra for 10 years, and it's a new technology sweeping the world of mining. But our deposit is one of the best types of deposits for that technology. So that scoping study coming out in a few months' time, yeah, fingers crossed. But it hopefully will be worth several times our current market cap.
Kevin McNeil's a top bloke. That's right. Kylie Prendergast from Petram Capital.
Thank you. That was great. I just wondered if you could speak briefly as to, I suppose, the potential scale and upside at Nebula.
Yep, that's a good question. Okay, well, it's, Nebula, as I say, we're starting with 150,000 ounces, we think, fingers crossed. The boys can reconstitute all that. I don't see any reason why not. Historically, there's another historic mine. It's only very small, Kylie, but they call it the Mystery Mine. I think it was, it was all artisanal mining years ago, but 700 ounces at something like 15 grams, as you would see in a lot of those historic mines. But there does seem to be the geochemical footprint that runs pretty clearly between the Fatties deposit, 150,000 ounces, and the old Mystery Mine. So we reckon we've got a 2-kilometre strike there. So the upside is enormous, and yeah, we'll progressively get to that over time. It's really just a matter of, again, trying to pick the low-hanging fruit first. We'll do some surface geochem and some sampling, make sure that the footprint is as they say, and then we'll probably go and do some drilling sometime in the next 12 months.
Okay, my final judge, Sean Russo from Noah's Rule. Over to you.
Thanks, Richard. Thanks, Andrew. How much cash have you guys got?
2.5 mil was the last published amount.
Okay. And what sort of, how's that going to get you through in terms of the scoping study and where you're looking at a financing decision for Horn?
I think I always answer this question in the same way. I think the situation at the moment is we're an explorer, and I'm sure the other two, Zeff and Geoff, will answer this the same way. We're always keeping our eyes out for financing options. We get approached probably once or twice a week with deals. At the right point, we'll probably raise some more money. Right now, we don't have to. In terms of financing Horn, I went through this in some detail yesterday. If indeed the scoping study comes out with an NPV, the likes of which I'm talking about, which would be several times our market cap, I've said that 3 times now, we'd look at raising a bit more money at that point. And raise some more money at that point, and then move directly into the feasibility studies. That's going to take a bit of drilling. I mean, obviously some more infill, probably expand the resource a bit as well with some exploration drilling. I mean, as I think the first judge asked me, is there more upside? Horn Island's got gold all over it, so there's plenty of upside. And so we'll do a combination of infill, expanding the resource, and also do some exploration work.
Okay, Andy, that's great. Nice work, and nice work judging panel as well. Let's let Andy stew for a while and move on to our next victim. Sorry, I meant our next pitch. Geoff McNamara, Executive Chairman from ASX-listed Rincon Resources. Your 3 minutes starts now.
Thank you. Morning, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you to Minds and Money for hosting. As mentioned, I am the chairman of Rincon Resources. I'm also co-founder, and I funded Rincon Resources as a private entity, so plenty of skin in the game there. Our primary asset is the South Telfer project in the Paterson province. As you can see on this slide, our tenements are down the bottom, these 3 red tenements. We are 12 kilometres from the 30 million ounce Telfer mine owned by Newcrest. And you can see from the other players in this area, Rio Tinto, obviously Newcrest, Greatland. This is a highly competitive land endowment. It's very hard to get a position, and we've got 3 prime tenements, with one of those being directly along strike from Telfer. Can we please go to the next slide? Thank you. So on this slide, you can see our 3 tenements outlined in white. You can see the Telfer mine up in the northwest. So that shows you how close we are, and that we are along the Telfer mineralised trend. Also apparent on this slide is the drilling that was being undertaken by Newcrest in the late 1990s, early 2000s, prior to them relinquishing a lot of these tenements. You can see in our Hastings prospect, the white one, the closest to Telfer, that there's been a significant amount of drilling done by Newcrest here. So what's important is we have an outcropping gossan on that tenement with gold grades up to 36 grams per tonne. And we also have these intercepts you can see here of both gold and copper, 57 metres at 2, 68 at 1, 23 at 2, some of those starting at surface. And below those, we have copper intercepts as well, 20 at 1.23, 10 at 3.39, and 4 at 4.84. 1 minute left. So we are in one of the world's great gold and copper endowments and a tier 1 mining jurisdiction. We will commence drilling on these projects in June. If we could go to the next slide, please. And we have 3 assets in total. Our second primary project is our Laverton Gold Project, 4 kilometres south of the township of Laverton. We're surrounded by Anglo-Ashanti, the Wallaby mine, 7 million ounces to the south. And on this project, we're following up on drill intercepts, historical drill intercepts, the best one of those being 7 metres at 15.9. So a lot of news flow, cash of 5.2 million in the bank, market cap of 15. So we're a very attractive entry point to the prolific Paterson province. And
all right, time's up there, Geoff. Nice work, mate. Well done. Great couple of neighbourhoods there, the Paterson and Laverton. Well, Kylie Prendergast from Petram Capital. Can we start with your question, please?
Sure. I just wondered if you could expand a bit more on, have you actually undertaken any work at South Telfer yet?
So we got our heritage clearance last month. So we've only just got on the ground there. Obviously, native title heritage clearance has become a bit challenging in WA post-COVID and Junkran Gorge. Our team's on the ground, so we've done a VTEM survey, and we're now doing ground IP, and we'll look to commence our 5,000 metre RC program on the ground in June. So no actual drilling. And obviously our first drilling program will be to test those historical results at Hastings. There's 2 clusters of drilling there. We'll look to join that up, and we've identified another 7 high priority targets on that tenement.
Okay.
That's good. Sean Russo from Noah's Rule. What are you dying to know about Rincon and gold in Western Australia?
Look, really, thank you for a great presentation. Just access to drilling. We're getting a lot of feedback from our existing producer clients that they won't let drill rigs off the site, because if they do, they're never coming back. The money was raised last year. How are you feeling about being able to hit that timetable?
Yeah, look, good question. We're in discussions with 2 contractors at the moment that are both active up there. And the key to the Patterson is getting a driller who's currently working there or who has worked there. Obviously, there's logistical challenges due to being remote. Water is another issue. But we expect to lock our driller in the next couple of weeks. So we're just going back and forward, more providing him with some data around working on that ground. But yeah, we're confident we're going to lock it in. We've got two groups in the pipeline. One of them's ready to roll.
Larry Hill from Phoenix Gold Fund.
Thank you, Geoff. Quick question just around South Telfer. Greatland Gold's success was probably quite deep, 400 metres down. So just getting an idea of how deep you're planning these initial holes at Hastings.
Yeah, so our competitive advantage is obviously if you've got Goffsons on your tenements, the mineralisation's outcropping, and those holes you saw, some of those start at surface. So we're probably looking at 200 metre holes. That's the low-hanging fruit for us, right? Follow up on the Newcrest drilling and at the outcropping mineralisation. So yeah, they won't be deep holes. Everything we're targeting is from surface.
Yeah, sure. And maybe just with your other asset, what is the sort of preliminary data that you're using to target, the locations for initial drilling?
So there was a couple of phases of drilling done there. So we're following up on that with our first round of drilling. We've also done 3 rounds of soil sampling over the last 18 months. And we've identified, with quite a few anomalies, gold, arsenic and antimony. Some of those, co-occurred with the historical intercepts, but we've also identified a couple of other areas with good anomalies. So we've basically got 5 target areas we're currently drilling with the existing 5,000 metres of air core, combination of those soil sampling anomalies and the historical drilling.
Thanks, I'll pass it on.
Ruchir Desai from Asia Front Capital. Have you been following the excitement in the Patterson at all from Hong Kong? And do you have a question for Geoff?
Great, thanks for your presentation, Geoff. Just one question is, I guess for the initial project you mentioned in the presentation, what is the long-term plan over here? I guess since you mentioned there are other larger players who are surrounding or close to your existing mine or project, I guess the question is long-term, would you plan to sell a stake to some of the larger players or some kind of agreement with them, or what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so medium term, it's to establish resources there on those 3 tenements, ideally targeting 500,000 to 1 million ounces, and then look to monetize them. We believe with outcropping mineralisation that close to Telfer that we won't need to enter into joint ventures. There are other ways to monetize that and to bring those towards production by them being treated at the Telfer mill. I think it's pretty common knowledge. Telfer's a deep underground mine now, high cost. Some plus 1.5 gram material that's open pittable will be very attractive to them. So look at royalty type agreements, something like that, or a sale of those specific assets for cash.
Great question there. Markwell from Line Selection, you're an African specialist, but what is your question for Geoff?
Yeah, thanks, Geoff. The Hastings drilling looks quite good on in that list of intercepts. I know you didn't have time to go through sections or anything, but I was just wondering what thoughts you have about why Newcrest dropped that ground, given it's there's some quite handy drill intercepts and it's not that far from Telfer.
Yeah, good question. So those programs were undertaken by Newcrest late 90s, early 2000s, and they relinquished a whole series of tenements in sort of mid 2000s. And we've been the beneficiary of that. The other thing is you've got to sort of put it in the context of a Telfer deposit in Newcrest. Basically, talking to some of the people who worked on that, who we know via our network, they were looking for sort of 10 million ounce, projects, right? So we've actually gone back using Leapfrog, remodelled the drilling, and looked at it three-dimensionally. So it's very broad spaced, and a lot of it was ineffective. Caveat that ineffective in that we're looking for 1 million ounces, they were looking for 10. They obviously didn't see enough in what they'd done to feel that there was 10 million ounces. Whereas we think, there's clearly an opportunity for, from 500,000 to 1 million ounce deposits there. And plus, I think, as we all know, very cyclical nature of this business. A corporate decides that, why are we spending X amount of dollars on exploration? That was the other overlay on the top of this relinquishment of the tenements. That at that period, everyone carved back their exploration teams and their exploration expenditure, and a lot of these projects, ended at, or a lot of these tenements were relinquished, and we can see, the likes of Antipa have been beneficiaries of that as well.
That's good. That's nice work, Geoff, and lots to think about there. Wow, who's going to get the $1 million? Will it be Andy? Will it be Geoff? Or will it be our final pitch from another old mate, Zeff Reeves, is the Managing Director of Tesoro Resources, a South American flavour to wrap up this battle. Zeff, your 3 minutes starts now.
Thanks, Richard, and welcome everybody. Thanks for joining. This format's all a bit new to us, so see how we go. So Tesoro's a...
Stop making excuses. Get into it.
Tesoro's a Chilean-focused gold company, gold exploration and development company. And I suppose, what we've got on our hands is the El Zorro Gold Project, located about 800 kilometres north of Santiago. And, the big questions are, why would you invest in Tesoro? Well, the El Zorro Gold Project is arguably the biggest gold discovery in Chile for quite some time. And it's basically a new gold district emerging out of our ground holdings. It's an intrusive related gold system. It's never been discovered or described, at least in Chile before. So it's got quite a competitive advantage in looking for these types of gold mineralisation. And the focus of our work's been at the Ternera gold deposit, where we've now drilled over 40,000 metres of diamond drilling. Company's been listed since February last year, but we did quite a lot of drilling prior to listing as a private company, with the founders of the company providing funding for that drilling. So Ternera is a big and growing deposit. Basically, the more drilling we do, the more ounces we're generating, with a view to get a maiden resource estimate out around the middle of this year. Currently, we've defined mineralisation from surface to over 400 metres deep, and the mineralised footprint that we've drilled is approximately 1 kilometre long and up to 500 metres wide in places. So obviously, it's a world-class location. Chile's a fantastic place for mining companies to operate. And as you can see on this map here, we get to leverage off existing infrastructure. So we're not in the high Andes, we're close to the coast, close to power, we're close to ports, roads and workforces. So it allows year-round exploration and operation. And I think the next sort of 6 to 12 months for us is a very linear pathway forward in progressing this project through through initially that maiden resource estimate and scoping study into feed and basically
1 minute left, please.
Progressive value creation. So if you just go to the next slide. So Ternera is ticking all the boxes. It's got the geology, it's got the scale, it's got the grade. We're seeing some really nice high grade cores of the deposit emerge out of the drilling that we've done. It's got the metallurgy. We've done initial met work. We've had up to 99% gold recovery, a lot of that reporting to the gravity circuit, and it's got the location. So we're really happy where we are at the moment. We've got, as I said, we've got a very linear pathway forward. We don't know how big this is going to be yet, but certainly the more work we're doing, the bigger it's getting, and plenty more value to add here for our investors and our future investors. So thanks for your time.
Well done. Great pitch. Right on the time and right on the money there, Zeff. Great work. Ruchir Desai in Hong Kong with Asia Frontier Capital. Have you got a question for Zeff?
Thanks for your presentation. Just a couple of questions. Initially, you mentioned, or in your presentation, you mentioned that you could leverage off the infrastructure in Chile, or on the region. Could you talk about the regulatory environment currently in the country for miners? Or have you had any issues, or any other companies which have issues in the past?
Yeah, look, another advantage of the project is located in the region 3 of Chile, so it's the biggest, one of the biggest incomes for that region's mining. It's in the Atacama Desert, so we're not impacted by other landowners or anything like that, so it's all Crown land. And the permitting process to get a mine from, I guess, where El Zorro is today through to production is a fairly linear process, and the permitting process is very well embedded in the mining regulations, but it does take some time. So we're already starting a lot of that preliminary work, baseline studies and the like, because we like what we see in front of us in terms of the deposit. So, I think the biggest risk for this project at this point in time that we see would be the permitting, and not that it wouldn't get permitted, but the time it would take to permit it.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Great questions there, Ruchir. Next up, Sean Russo from Noah's Rule.
Thanks, Richard. Thanks, Zeff. Good presentation. Look, I just think for me always with Aussies operating offshore is just what's the local interest in your register in terms of local institutions or sort of some of the big families that are involved in mining in that part of the world. Have you got any of those people on your register?
Yeah, Sean, good question. Yeah, we do actually have 2 of our largest shareholders. So they're both in our top 5 shareholders, local Chilean family offices. And one of those family offices actually provided funding pre-IPO for us when we first kicked off drilling as a private company. They followed their money in at IPO and each capital raising since. And another Chilean family office sitting there that came in at IPO and has also followed its money on each capital raising since. So, it is a good tick of confidence, if you like, when you have groups like that coming in. These guys aren't stupid, and they know the lay of the land in Chile quite well. So, that's a good outcome to have them sitting on the register.
Larry Hill from Phoenix Gold Fund. Have you got a question here for Zeff?
Thanks, Zeff. Good presentation. Just around your timeline for a maiden resource, what are you thinking in terms of what this shapes in terms of strike, how far you've defined it along strike length and, repeating along that? Just what are you how are you constraining the current thinking of the resource?
Yeah, look, we've done a reasonable amount of, fairly aggressive step out holes, if you like, and they've all come back with decent intercepts in. So we're coming back and infilling through those now. But on that map, there's that kilometre strike, and that's basically the footprint that we've drilled. We'd hope to get a majority of that into resource as an initial resource, but I suppose it's important to make note that this maiden resource that we're working on would be, we see it as a stepping stone to whatever ultimately is there in the ground. We'd expect to have fairly regular updates of an increasing resource going forward. We won't be stopping drilling. We're well funded. We've currently got about 17.5 million in the bank. And we've got about another 40,000 metres of drilling, which I'm just convincing our board to approve and get stuck into for the next 6 to 12 months. And we've got 6 drill rigs sitting on site at the moment drilling. So we mobilised another rig late last week. So we're full steam into it. But there will be a line in the sand. We'll say that hole ends up in the resource, and then the ones going forward won't end up in that maiden resource. But I think it will demonstrate the scale, the potential grade, and also show the market where the potential is in terms of expanding the size of the deposit. Wow, that's a lot of drilling there, Zeff. Kylie Prendergast from Petram Capital.
Just 2 quick questions. So firstly, how deep from surface? And then secondly, I know you say you've got about a 1 kilometre scale so far. What is the potential in your tenements or that area for systems bigger, even more?
Yeah, so the main zone at Tenera is outcropping. So if you look at those slides that were thrown up, the first slide's an aerial photo of Tenera. So that's essentially an outcropping ore body. So we've got good grade sticking out of the ground there. The deepest hole we've drilled a little over 500 metres that had mineralisation in it down to around 450. So it's still open at depth. So, you know, at the moment, Tenera's a ridge sticking out of the ground. So your initial mining would be straight into ore. In terms of upside, the main Tenera deposit itself is obviously still open. We haven't found the edges of it yet, so you know we don't know how big the ultimate size will be until we finish drilling it, I guess. But we've recently announced some other targets that we've delineated. So there's about another 5 outcropping gold targets through our tenement package in the immediate district of Tenera, if you like, so within about a 5k radius. And when I say outcropping gold mineralisation, it's almost fresh rock. We've done good controlled channel sampling on it, seeing nice widths and grades outcropping. We're just working on those at the moment before they're drilled some more. We've actually drilled 2 targets outside of Tenera. One of them, Toro Gordo to the south, had grades up to 69 grams a tonne in the first drill hole. And Drone Hill, which we believe is a continuation of Tenera to the west, that had a positive hit in the first hole drilled there of around about 10 metres at 1.7 or something. So it's a big system.
Tim, I'll cut you off there. This is dangerous stuff, hard fought battle. Tim Markwell, your final question here. Tim's course book from Line Selection.
Yeah, I was going to ask about the hardness of the ore, but I think you've already said that it's fresh rock, so I'm assuming it's quite hard, sort of tonalite. But it's clearly going to be quite a large bulk tonnage mine, looking at those quite broad intercepts. So it's great looking deposit. But is water going to be much of an issue in that part of Chile?
Yeah, look, one of the advantages of the project, Tim, is obviously that location being only 15 kilometres from the ocean. So we're looking at probably using seawater for processing. There is groundwater in the valley below the deposit, so we know that there's some old water bores down there, and also some of our drilling in the lower parts of the deposit. There's water in those holes. And there's also a desal plant, which is about 20 kilometres away, which we currently get potable water from for fresh water that our drillers are using for the diamond drilling. So it's a pretty common scenario for mines in Chile that are close enough to the coast to utilise the seawater for processing.
Okay, thanks, Tim, and thanks, Zeff. Tough questioning there. These guys don't take any prisoners, but what is the verdict? Here we come to it. Judging panel, it's time to decide. There's a million things to think about. $1 million will probably get you a decent drill program. Maybe 10,000 metres of diamond core. Even I could find something with a program like that, especially in Victoria, of course. But this isn't about Victorian gold. This is about our 3 bold explorers we have here today. Here we go. Your verdict, please. Larry Hill of Phoenix Gold Fund. Who gets the chocolate biscuits and why?
Oh, look, great presentations, all different opportunities, but I guess I liked initially from the news from Andy from Alice Queen, just around line 1 just nearby, and I know they've got a scoping study and are quite aggressive on the development of that asset with a pretty small resource. So any opportunity to toll treat a resource that you can work up may be a good way to fund exploration at your other projects. So, you know, it's all based on where your market cap's at. And I think where you're at sub $20 million, yeah, there's plenty of sort of good catalysts there in that stock. But yeah, also some good opportunities with the other ones presented. So thanks for the opportunity.
Nice work, Larry. Kylie, Prendergast from Petram Capital. Who gets your money?
I'm going with Alice Queen as well, mostly because there's gold and copper, 3 like diversified sort of portfolio, and the commodities, and being just that little bit more advanced down the pathways. But I'm going to go and read about intrusive gold in South America now. So, thank you.
That's good. Oh, Andy Buxton running to the lead there. Tim Markwell from Line Select. Verdict, please, and why?
Sorry to be boring, but I'm going Alice Queen as well. I think the bang for the buck with $1 million is quite good. And I mean, if there's exploration upside and you've got the answers in the bank already and a scoping study coming out in a few months and the impact of ore sorting, I can see some upside news coming immediately. So I think I see that as more immediate. I like the exploration discovery they've got at Sorry. That looks really interesting. It looks like it'd be a good ore body. And I think the Newcrest drilling at Hastings looks like there's unfinished business there. So it was actually a very hard decision, but I think for the $1 million in the short term, I think that's where I'd go, Alice Queen.
Well, Tim, you go to some interesting places, mate. I thought you might have gone with Chile there, but and he's got his not only his nose, he's got a couple of body lengths in front here. Desai, thank you very much for joining us from Asia Frontier Capital. What caught your eye?
Well, I'll be a bit different over here, just to add some spice to the final decision. I guess I would go with Rincon, I guess, because of the fact that their initial mine has already, it's in a good location. So potentially they could monetize that asset and add more value for shareholders. So I'll probably go with Rincon, given the fact that there's a pretty high opportunity to monetize that asset going forward the next few years.
Yeah, well, thank you very much for that one. Sean Russo from Noah's Rule. It looks pretty much done and dusted here, but you're a money man. Who gets your $1 million?
Well, I just love the idea of making really substantially leveraged gains off Newcrest, just walking away from stuff. That would just appeal to me, and people who know me will know why. But yeah, so I've got to give half. I'm going to give half the money to Rincon. Because I think that the market cap there and the cash they've got, you drill holes there, and my mate Sean Day across the road there at Great Gold. I mean, that's just a one part of the world. But I'm going to give the other half to Alice Queen, because I like small companies that are undervalued there. I think the short-term stuff's good, and I think NAIF are throwing money around like nobody's business in that part of the world. So you'll get some good financing. You'll be able to do that without diluting shareholders too much and build that project. So 50-50 to Rincon and Alice Queen.
Oh, that's very, very, very good. Well, I don't need to go to Andrew Thake, who is busy sort of keeping score here. It looks like Alice Queen, the mighty Alice, has got the chocolates with the Queensland asset at Horn Island, and of course down in New South Wales. I mean, that's a fascinating part of the world. You did well to get that acreage down there, Andy. Just tell us your secret. How did you get into that wonderful Lachlan Fold ground?
Yeah, well, thanks everyone for those kind words. I think that John Holiday factor in our New South Wales package has been major. One thing I didn't explain, didn't have time, but it's worthy just quickly spending 10 seconds on it. He discovered Cadia in whatever it was, 1991. His view of the world was that you're never going to discover another Cadia Ridgeway on that southern part of the Molong Belt. So all the action, if there is going to be another one, is going to be to the north, undercover. And so that was probably going back, Richard, 5 years ago. And so, like all of our assets, we've never paid for any assets. We get down into the nitty-gritty of pegging the ground ourselves. And we went and pegged pretty much all the ground that we could along that northern part of the Molong Belt. So really under John's guidance, he still lives in the area. He's managed Cadia as mine manager for a number of years. So it's his own backyard. We put a couple of put a couple of instructions out to our tenant management team to keep an eye on things popping up, and they just gradually popped up. We were always patient, systematic, and we pegged them ourselves.
Oh, that's good. That's good. Well done. Our winner today unfortunately, it's only notional $1 million, but it's the glory. Let's call it that. Well, can I thank very much our three pitching companies today, and apologies for cutting you off occasionally. I'm that type of guy. Andy Buxton, of course, our winner from Alice Queen, Geoff McNamara from Rincon Resources, and Zeff Reeves from Tesoro. All three of them listed on our wonderful ASX. Thank you very much for presenting today. And our judges, Tim Markwell from Lion Selection, Larry Hill from Phoenix Gold, Ruchir Desai from Asia Frontier Capital, Kylie Prendergast from Petram Capital, And of course, Sean Russo from Noah's Rules. Sorry about that, Sean. I got a bit of a frog in my throat there. And thanks for being part of the show. Thanks from the Melbourne Mining Club, and thanks from Mines and Money. Thank you all.
Thank you very much. And thank you very much, Richard.
Thank you all. Bye.